Welcome, everybody. This is a special episode of Locked On Grizzlies and Locked On Warriors. It is a Locked On NBA crossover podcast in honor of the NBA play-in tonight. They're in San Francisco, the Golden State Warriors taking on the Memphis Grizzlies, the 7-8 seed matchup. The winner gets the Houston Rockets in a 2-7 matchup that is pretty spicy either way, if you ask me. And the loser goes on to play on Friday against the winner of the Sacramento Kings and Dallas Mavericks. Neither team wants to be the loser. Both teams want to be the winner, but you're a winner for having chosen to spend the next 30 minutes or so with us here at Locked On NBA Crossover with the Grizzlies and the Warriors. I am one of your hosts, Joe Mullinax, joined today by the wonderful Charlie Walter of Locked On Warriors. How are you, Charlie?
Doing well. How you fellas doing tonight?
We're doing well. Thank you for being with us. And of course, my co-host over at Locked On Grizzlies, the incomparable Damichael Cole, Memphis Grizzlies beat writer for the Commercial Appeal there in Memphis, Tennessee, award-winning Memphis Grizzlies beat writer for the Commercial Appeal. They're on the ground in San Francisco, ready for Grizzlies-Warriors, I'm sure. Damichael, how are you, buddy?
Doing pretty good. The flight, I'm getting used to that San Francisco, Memphis flight. I mean, these teams play against each other so much, and then we just had the All-Star break. Like, I can't leave San Francisco alone, and clearly San Francisco can't leave me alone either. So it's all good.
You go into restaurants now, and they know you. They know your order. They know what you do. Yeah, you're a star out there, man. I'm sure. Not quite the star that Charlie is, given his Locked On Warriors
he's the star
fame,
of the show for sure.
That's exactly right. Well, I am intimidated by two much better-looking gentlemen and me being the sandwich here. But that's all right. We're going to power through. If you're on YouTube, I apologize. But remember, you can get the podcast on YouTube if you want to check out the audio versions, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, wherever you get a podcast, you can get Locked On Grizzlies and Locked On Warriors. Plus, subscribe via lockedondaily.com to our free daily newsletters. Locked On Warriors has one, as does Locked On Grizzlies. We'll talk more about that later on in the show. But again, lockedondaily.com, free daily newsletter covering the Grizzlies and the Warriors. Plus, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, as both Locked On Warriors and Locked On Grizzlies are proud members of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team each and every single day. Charlie, you are the guest here on this show. 2 outnumbers 1. And to be honest, I have to be fair. The Warriors are heavy favorites going into tonight's contest. I believe the last I checked was about 7 points on FanDuel. So we're going to lead off the show talking about what has to happen for the Warriors to win, since that is the predicted outcome by most out there in the NBA world. So the floor is yours. What do you think has to happen for Golden State to knock off the Grizzlies tonight? The Warriors will win if.
The Warriors will win if they play good. Not decent, good. They got to play a good basketball game to beat the Memphis Grizzlies. I believe that. Memphis has been reeling record-wise, but when you go through the games that they've played, like they've still beaten up for the most part on the teams that they're supposed to beat up on. They're clearly not a bad basketball team. We saw them a couple weeks ago take Golden State down to the final horn with Steph scoring 52. I mean, you're going to get Memphis's best shot. The big question is, because Memphis, to me, like, they have great players. Jackson can go off at any time. You got Desmond Bane, who I think is one of the most underrated players in the league. We all know about Ja Morant. They have the players to pull off this quote-unquote 7-point upset, no doubt about it. If they catch the Warriors sleepwalking a bit, and the Warriors aren't going to be sleepwalking, that's not the way they're going to catch them. It's just one of those slow starts where Golden State can't knock anything down. You go down 17 points. We've seen it time and time again this season that when the Warriors are behind in games, significantly behind early, they just haven't really had the firepower to overcome those early deficits. Now, it's gotten better since Jimmy's joined the fold, mainly because they don't get out to those early deficits anymore. But that, to me, is the biggest thing. I do think the Warriors have to play a good game. They will win if they don't. I mean, it sounds so simple, right? The files are in the computer. They'll win if they play good. I believe they're the better team. It's as simple as that.
They certainly have the higher caliber of star power. And I think Locked On Grizzlies fans will be mad at me for saying that out loud. But I think we could acknowledge that the Warriors have 3 Hall of Fame players plus a Hall of Fame coach in Steve Kerr. The Grizzlies do not have any of those things at this current moment. And if you want to yell at me about Ja Morant not being a Hall of Famer at this stage, you can be mad online. That's fine. Damichael, I'll ask the same question to you, and we'll flip it here in a moment. But You'll be there on the floor. You'll be there in person, in the flesh, covering this play-in game for the commercial appeal in Memphis. The Warriors will win if.
Yeah, I think Charlie pointed out some good things there, but to me, it's if they dictate the game within the game. And what I mean by that is when you watch the Grizzlies and the Warriors historically, and it's something that when I was talking to Tomas Isolo yesterday, he pointed out as well. The thing about these games is if the Grizzlies can lean into playing big, which I'll talk a little bit more about in the second segment, it'll probably play more into their favor. But what Golden State has done a good job of is kind of dictating the game against the Grizzlies and forcing the Grizzlies to play their style of game. And what you usually see the Grizzlies do is they'll put Jaren at the 5 or Brandon Clark, and they'll play Jaren together. And sometimes, no matter how good those lineups have been over the course of a season, when you try to match Golden State in that small ball lineup, it never works out for the Grizzlies. And typically, Golden State has went to Kevon Looney at times. I know he's not playing as much now, Charlie, but he's kind of been a guy that's been a difference maker, over the years, against the Grizzlies. I mean, it's been a couple years now, but if you go back to that playoff series, that Game 6 game, all I can think about is Looney grabbing every single rebound. He had 22 rebounds, and 11 of them were offensive rebounds against the Grizzlies. And that's something that the Grizzlies are still conscious of, the fact that, the way he rebounded the basketball. But it's not even about, Kevon Looney, so to speak. It's about the fact that the Grizzlies can't get caught into, they're gonna play small. Okay, fine. We're gonna move Jaren over to the 5, Santi to the 4, and we're gonna play their style of game. No, the Grizzlies have kind of made their own identity this year with being a bigger team, and that's going to be critical for them. So in this case, if the Warriors, we saw it in Memphis. There were times where when Zach Edey was plus 13 over the course of that game, but you could see Steph Curry. When Zach Edey was in the game, he was seeking that matchup. He was telling Draymond to come here, give me the screen. And there were a couple times I remember vividly seeing, Steph Curry when he was tired a little bit. I mean, he had scored 52 and took 23s. So there were a couple possessions where it's funny saying it, but he'd give the ball to Podziemski and he'd just point at Zach Edey, like, go at him. Like, that is clearly in Golden State's locker room, it is a conscious effort to take advantage of that matchup. But if the Grizzlies can play that matchup neutral, then it isn't much of an advantage. So the Warriors will win if they can kind of force the Grizzlies to say, all right, we got to take Zach Edey off the floor. Because at that point, you're going to put Jaren at the 5, then Golden State's probably going to dominate the glass, and that'll be all she wrote for Memphis.
If they finish, because that's kind of been the yips this entire season, and not as much during the Jimmy Butler-led Warriors, but the issue has been so many times down the stretch, you're looking for Curry, and defenses obviously are focusing on Steph. And what do the Warriors do? Draymond's the culprit many times. They turn it over. They allow other teams to get back in the game. They should have beaten the Spurs. They kind of blew that one down the stretch. Clippers was more back and forth, but it's another clutch game, yet another clutch game that the Warriors have lost. And I do find it interesting that really the last clutch game the Warriors won, it seems like, was against the Memphis Grizzlies, where Memphis clawed their way all the way back after, being down 14 or whatever early, with Steph hitting 5 first quarter threes and 8 in the first half, and had all those points. And Memphis took the lead with a couple minutes to go. And that was the one game where Golden State really put their foot on the pedal the last 90 seconds or so and just wiped Memphis off the floor late. So that'll be interesting if it is a late game scenario. Did the Warriors get their late game yips back, or are they, better than advertised? That the Spurs, that was a fluke, and the Clippers was just a byproduct of playing a really good team?
The Grizzlies are used to being wiped off the floor lately. That's happened a lot to Memphis in the last several weeks. The Nuggets being the most recent example. Damichael, did you notice how he said that this was the Jimmy Butler-led Warriors? I picked up on that.
I didn't mean it that way.
Joe, don't you run with that. Don't you run with
because
that.
I said that Jimmy Butler was the best player for the Warriors.
Listen to this.
I said he was the main option. He was the guy that was he's the lead energy. He's the
absolutely not. Changer. But I will say this:
Thank you.
Against the Clippers,
Jimmy
they
Butler
were
led Warriors.
They were seeking Steph to the point where there was 60 right before he got the Charlie horse. There was 60 seconds left in the game or whatever, and I was like, they should start running the offense through Jimmy right now. Defense knows what's coming with Steph because they ended up. Steph turned it over, and I think Draymond turned it over. Same thing happened in the Spurs game. They become very predictable late in the games because Pods, who is an option early, just kind of fades late, and he's never really looking for a shot. It seems like Buddy's typically on the bench at that point. Draymond's missing layups. And at that point, like, I think get it down low to Jimmy on the block, and he facilitates a lot of your offense. I mean, it may end up being a Steph 3, but to me, it has a better chance happening when Jimmy has the ball in his hands. Like, good things happen with 5-6 on the shot clock when you get the ball to Jimmy. And I don't think they did enough of that against LA.
We'll call it a Freudian slip. The Jimmy Butler-led Warriors.
He's a leader of the team, a leader.
Yeah. Ooh, he said the leader again. You heard that, Damichael. I tell you what, I'm onto something here.
Charlie, you're playing right into this man's hands. You're playing into his hands.
I'm just busting Charlie's chops. When we come back here on Locked On Grizzlies, we're going to flip the script. What if the upset gets pulled? The Grizzlies will win if. Stick around here on this special Locked On NBA crossover edition of Locked On Grizzlies and Locked On Warriors. Today's episode of Locked On NBA Crossover is brought to you by Hungry Root. Spring is here and life is busier than ever before between work, family, and everything in between. Staying up until 1 a.m. on the East Coast to watch basketball. Who has time for grocery shopping? Certainly not me. That's why I use Hungry Root. It makes eating healthy, delicious meals simple and stress-free. Hungry Root is like having your own personal shopper and nutritionist wrapped into one. They take care of grocery shopping and meal planning, offering personalized recommendations based on your tastes and health goals. I personally love Hungry Root's tailor-made orders based on what you like or don't like. I've often been told I have the palate of a 5-year-old, which is fitting because I have several small children. But Hungry Root works around what you like to eat. They come together in 15 minutes or less, the Hungry Root meals, giving you more time for whatever it is you need to do in your day. Take advantage of this exclusive offer. Get 40% off your first box plus a free item in every box for life. Go to hungryroot.com/LockedOnNBA and use the code LockedOnNBA. That's hungryroot.com/LockedOnNBA, code LockedOnNBA for 40% off and a lifetime free item. That's a pretty good deal. Go check them out today. All right, so let's flip the script. As I mentioned a moment ago, the Grizzlies are now the team that's going to win, and Damichael, we'll start with you in that energy, in that vein. The Grizzlies will win if
Zach Edey and Jaren Jackson Jr. are on the floor a lot. It kind of goes back to what I was saying in the first segment. We're going to flip it around here because you look at the Grizzlies' 2-man net rating lineups. Jaren Jackson Jr. and Zach Edey are on the floor together. They are 12.7 points better than the opponent. That's the best 2-man net rating lineup of any Grizzlies 2-man lineups that have played at least 500 minutes. So we're talking about a total of 27 different combinations here. And that's better than Ja and Jaren, which was the second highest. That's better than Dez and Jaren. That's better than Dez and Ja. It is the highest. So with all that being said, look, I think if the Grizzlies can get Jaren Jackson Jr. on the floor for a long time, that means he stays out of foul trouble. We talked in the past about it. No player in the NBA, in my opinion, knows how to manipulate Jaren's foul woes better than Draymond Green. Draymond Green and the Warriors have a history of Jaren Jackson Jr. being in foul trouble. Shoot, I went and looked at the play-in game from 2021, and I don't know if you remember, Joe, but Jaren played 14 minutes in that game and had 4 fouls. Yeah, that was the Ja Morant showcase. Ja Morant had 35 points in that overtime win for the Grizzlies. But basically, you need Jaren Jackson Jr. to be on the floor. And not only do you need Jaren on the floor, you need Zach Edey on the floor. The Grizzlies have prioritized playing him more with Isalo as the head coach. He's finally getting upwards of 30 minutes in games now. Remember when Taylor Jenkins was the coach, Edey never eclipsed 30 minutes in a game. Now we're starting to see that more and more in the month of April. If Edey's playing over 30 minutes in his game and Jaren Jackson Jr. staying out of foul trouble, that allows the Grizzlies to be more dominant on the glass. That allows the Grizzlies, when the Warriors elect to go small, you're going to have a mismatch somewhere in there, whether it's Zach Edey going against a smaller guy or Jaren Jackson Jr. being matched up against a wing defender and using his strength and his size. So that's the key for the Grizzlies to me.
I do think that the attacking Zach Edey, because you guys are exactly right what you talked about earlier in the show, both AirPods and Steph did it. But again, Edey was a plus 13 in the minutes that he was on the floor. So as much as we can talk about and say he was targeted, Steph was targeting him, well, the Warriors weren't able to do much with him in other spots as well. So I do think Edey deserves that respect. I think that's a great point, partner. Same question to you, Charlie. I know it's hard for you and your Golden State heart to accept that this is possible, but the Grizzlies could find a way to knock off the Warriors. The Grizzlies win if...
I think it's an either or. We'll start off with the either. Either the Golden State Warriors get off to a slow start, which let's hope it's not a slow start like the one at the early stages of winter when, you know, it was like 23-2 and the Warriors shot at like 17% and lost by about 70 points. Let's hope it's not a slow start like that. But we've seen from time to time the Warriors just, and we saw it as recently as a few games ago against the depleted Portland Trailblazers team. They kind of sleepwalk a little bit. And I'm not expecting them to come out flat by any means in this game with any sort of a lack of energy, but missing shots makes it look that way sometimes, especially when you're shooting it 56 times from deep like they did the last time they played the Memphis Grizzlies. It took 22 3-pointers for the Warriors to kind of sneak past the Grizzlies in their last matchup. There have been games where the Warriors hit 9, they hit 10 3-pointers. In those games, sometimes they've been able to win because their calling card is defense. And if you can defend at a high enough level, hit 40% from the floor, hang in the rebounding battle, and, you know, miss a bunch of threes, you'll be able to survive. But the fact that the Warriors went 22 3-pointers, they went 28 of 28 from the free throw line in that game and barely won makes me say why. And that's the or. So the either is the slow start, the or is Steph Curry doesn't get enough help from his overall supporting cast. It was Podziemski with just 8 points in that game. The bench combined for, it looks like 21. Draymond missed a ton of threes, chucked up a lot of them, went 1 for 7. Butler had 27. That's plenty of help. But the Moody-Podziemski combo, that's an X factor for the Warriors to where, especially Pods, when he's scoring 26 points like he did against the Lakers and the Nuggets, it elevates this team to another level. If the Warriors don't have that Podziemski, they don't have that Moody, they don't get the Buddy Hield effect off the bench, then you're asking for Curry to go for 40, for Butler to go for 30 in order to hang with the Memphis Grizzlies, who can hang some points.
If I could throw
ahead,
if I could throw a quick one back at Charlie real quick, because you mentioned the starts for Golden State, and Joe, you can attest to this. Like the Grizzlies in the first and second quarters of some recent games, especially against those better teams, have had some rough quarters. You know, they've had a bunch of quarters as of late, whether it's the first quarter, they're giving up 40 points, second quarter, they're giving up 38, 39, 40 points, whatever the case may be. And I noticed, you know, just recently with Golden State, I think it's 3 consecutive home losses where they've had double-digit leads. Is there a certain thing that's happening in each of those losses? Because the Grizzlies have gotten back into games. In these cases, they don't come back and win a lot of them, but they've gotten back into them. So I'm really curious to see how that dynamic plays out, because I could see where Golden State could possibly get out to a pretty good start and the Grizzlies fight their way back. But, you know, what happens after that just, you know, seems kind of in the air.
There's one common denominator, and that's the turnovers. That usually when they blow these leads, at some point they get a little slap happy and they start throwing it off each other's knees and dribbling off their foots, and Steph tries to do a little too much. I mean, he's one of the greatest players in NBA history, but lately, late in games, he can be one of the most frustrating as well. I mean, he turns it over at a remarkable clip, as does Draymond Green, both those guys. And sometimes they're just forced passes. Other times they're just careless mistakes. Like when Steph tried inbounding to Jimmy Butler the other day and it just got taken away on the inbounds. Like you cannot have that happen in a win or go home game. So that's something that kind of sticks out to me with the Warriors. What was the second part of that question? I went on a little tangent there.
No, that was pretty much it. I mean, just what's really happened lately for them to
turnovers the common denominator. And then it's just to me, it's as simple as they shoot a ton of threes. They don't get as much pressure on the rim, especially since now Jonathan Kuminga's fully out of the rotation at last glance against the LA Clippers. So when you're not putting a ton of pressure on the rim and, Jimmy Butler's not taking 20 shots like he did against the Clippers, a lot of times he's taking 7, he's taking 9, unless he's getting to the free throw line a ton. A lot of your shots are difficult. And when the Warriors are hitting them at a 28, 32% clip, like they have many games this season, when they're doing that during the middle of a game where they start off, 9 of their first 20, and then they go on this lull where they hit 3 of 16, like you're just daring the other team to come back. And that happens so many times this season. You can also, shoot yourself completely to a win if you get hot enough, which we've seen equally as much. There's really no rhyme or reason with the Warriors. They've lost games to the Jazz. They've lost games to the Spurs. They've beaten the Celtics. They've beaten the Thunder. They've beaten the Rockets. They've beaten everyone. They've seemingly lost to everyone too. So will the real Warriors please stand up? Because I do not know what to expect as we enter the middle of April.
The turnover thing is something that Grizzlies fans so relate to, and it's something that I've been talking about on Locked On Grizzlies all season long. Protecting those possessions is key, it sounds like, for both teams going into tonight's play-in game. When we come back here on this special Locked On NBA crossover edition of Locked On Warriors and Locked On Grizzlies, we will close out the show talking about X factors and making our predictions for the game tonight. Stick around. Today's Locked On NBA crossover edition of Locked On Warriors and Locked On Grizzlies is brought to you by Open Phone. If you're running a business, you know that every missed call is money left on the table. Think about it. When was the last time you had a service emergency? If the first person didn't answer, did you wait? Probably not. That's why you need Open Phone. It's the #1 business phone system designed to streamline and scale your customer communications all through an app on your phone or computer. I love the fact that you don't have to carry 2 phones for this. With Open Phone, you can manage business calls and texts from one app, whether you are at your desk or you are on the go. And it's a pretty cool feature, the shared inbox. Your team can jump into any conversation without missing a single beat. Open Phone is offering our listeners 20% off your first 6 months at openphone.com/LockedOnNBA. That's OPENPHONE.com/LockedOnNBA. And if you're switching from another service, Open Phone will even port your existing numbers over at no extra charge. Open Phone, no missed calls, no missed customers. Check out Open Phone today. All righty, guys, time to talk X factors for tonight's contest. And I'll start off, if that's okay. I'll be brief. I think my biggest X factor for this one is the fact that the Golden State Warriors played an overtime game just a couple of days ago. Now, Draymond Green said, shout out to senior citizens. They're not senior citizens over there in Golden State, and that's a fair point. But I do wonder how the way that Sunday played out, the Grizzlies' key players didn't play a minute. Right? They didn't play at all. They sat out the game, except for maybe Vince Williams Jr., if you want to call him one of the Grizzlies' key players. But Ja Morant didn't play. Desmond Bane didn't play. Jaren Jackson Jr. didn't play. Steph Curry, Jimmy Butler, and Draymond Green played, and they played a lot. In the case of Jimmy Butler, 48 minutes. All of them have various bumps and bruises. It's important to point out none of them are on the injury report. But Steph has a thumb issue. You've got Draymond Green, got hit in the back of the head or the neck. Jimmy Butler took a pretty nasty knee to the thigh. They're late from Kawhi Leonard. So the Grizzlies are the fresher team going into this contest. I guess, Charlie, I'll start with you. That's my X factor. How much does that matter? Maybe the answer is not much at all since the Warriors are at home, but that feels like something to monitor early and late in the game.
It's weird where I feel like when I expect the Warriors to show up the flattest is oftentimes when they have some of their best performances. We saw it a week and a half ago against the Nuggets. It was a back-to-back Lakers-Nuggets. They had already beaten Memphis to start this 4-game stretch that also included the Houston Rockets. That ended up being the only loss. And you beat Memphis, you beat LA, you turn around on that back-to-back, and you have to fly back to San Francisco and take on Denver. Curry was banged up, and you just assumed, like, all right, this is kind of a load management, scheduled loss. You got a couple of wins. Let's get ready for Sunday in Houston. And Warriors came out and they looked flat to start the game. First quarter wasn't a thing of beauty, but after that, they were rolling in that game. So that's one that I can point to. There have been many times where they've been missing Curry, especially early in the season, where you thought they were just going to kind of roll over, and they came out and I mean, almost beat the Thunder without Curry, and they beat Houston without Curry. They've beaten some really good teams without Steph. So in terms of rest and a game that like maybe they show up flat in because of the side factors that happened from a game ago, I don't know. Like when I think that's going to bother the Warriors, it's usually when it happens the least. So I'm expecting a pretty fresh team to show up.
Damichael, you traveled first class, I'm sure, out to San Francisco, so you are well rested and fresh. The commercial appeal treats you right. I know that to be true. But all jokes aside, how are you feeling in terms of X factors going into this game? On yesterday's show over at Locked On Grizzlies, I talked about Podziemski a good bit, how he has been a two-way impactful guy for the Warriors.
Right.
What are some X factors for you going into this game against Golden State?
I'll circle one guy for this one, and it's Scottie Pippen Jr. He's going to play a lot of minutes, and in this type of game, he is the guy who's been probably the biggest irritant the Grizzlies have had this season. He's the one guy that's drawn those offensive fouls 85 feet from the basket and things like that, or he's drawn those illegal screen calls because of, the way he's kind of up in a stance on guys. Vince Williams is going to draw the Curry assignment probably initially, whatever the case. You're going to see a lot of other guys being thrown in. Curry moves around a ton, we know, so there's going to be a lot of tagging. There's going to be a lot of switching, etc. But Scottie Pippen Jr. is your one guy who can force some of those turnovers that we were talking about earlier. He is your irritant. He's going to have to irritate Steph Curry in this game. And we've seen as of late, Isolo has leaned on him more and more. We talked about these two games that Vince Williams has started as of late. Scottie Pippen Jr. had still played more of the minutes. So Vince Williams has gotten a start. But you're seeing a lot of combinations with Scottie Pippen Jr. and Ja Morant being the backcourt and Desmond Bane sliding over to the three. He's the X factor to me. He's the guy who's going to guard Steph for more minutes than anyone in this game. And if he's on his A game and you slow down Steph like they did the first two meetings against him, it gives you a lot better chance than when he's scoring 52 points.
Same question to you, Charlie. How are you feeling X factor wise, whether it's for the Grizzlies, for Golden State? What are you watching for? Maybe somebody outside of the stars that could impact this thing.
Man, I can go up and down the roster because like an X factor of someone that may not play a single minute or could come out and score 20 points is Jonathan Kuminga. I mean, he got a DNP in the last game and all signs are pointing to maybe that's just his spot in the rotation, but he went from 17 minutes and 20 minutes and 18 minutes to just see ya. Last game of the season, must win. You're no longer in the rotation. So he's an interesting one to keep an eye on. But I would say I was thinking Buddy for a minute because whenever Buddy scores more than 19 points, the Warriors win statistically at I think it's like 14-1 on the season, something ridiculous. Podziemski's the stock answer. So I don't want to get too cute with it. Moses Moody, it's more defense than anything as of right now. His on-ball defense has been excellent, getting into passing lanes. He's got those long, waving, inflatable, wacky tube guy. You know what I'm talking about. But to me, it's Jimmy Butler. He's the X factor, and obviously, X factor is more entitled for someone like Brandon Podziemski. But I think it's Butler. There have been games where he has not been as aggressive as I think he needs to be. He had 20 shots in that Clippers game. We've seen him take 5, 7, 8 shots, but him getting to the free throw line, giving the Warriors a chance to, collect their thoughts, to get back on D and just make the right decisions. He's another decision maker along with Draymond Green on the offensive end that can find Steph, that can work from the high post, can go down to work on the block, give him the ball on the wing as of late. And he's usually made the right decisions a few times. Just kind of navigating Draymond that way and navigating Peyton over to the right and then freeing up the lane, seeing that, and then just taking it down and hammering it home. He did that twice against the Clippers. The second time he's going nuts, pounding his chest, and you're like, all right, playoff Jimmy is here. And we saw it for spurts in the 48 minutes that he played in the Warriors last game. Are we going to get playoff Jimmy? Are we going to get play-in Jimmy? We will see, but we have seen a few too many times this season that Butler has not been assertive enough. offensively. And that doesn't mean he hasn't been good. Like he's been facilitating. He gets everyone clean looks. He always makes the smart basketball play, but sometimes the selfish basketball play needs to be the smart play. And if Kuminga's no longer in the mix, that's 15 points you're docking away from your team. And if Pajemski and Moody aren't on, which we've seen from time to time as a possibility, you got to get your 20, 30 points from Jimmy Butler. You just have to. That's my X factor.
Have you had Jimmy Butler's coffee yet? That's what the audience surely wants to know.
I have not had the coffee yet. And I'm more of like the energy drink guy. I tell myself that they're not horrible for you as I guzzle one down every single day, the Celsius, that sort of thing.
There you go.
But, I do enjoy a nice cup of Joe. I'm on a kick right now with those energy drinks for whatever reason, and have not gone back to my beloved Joe in quite some time.
Well, my wife goes to her beloved Joe every single day. It's lovely spending time with my wife. So anyway, we'll get out of here on this before we get kicked off of the Locked On airwaves. Charlie, your prediction, I have a feeling I know how you're going to go. Again, a majority of the NBA world, I think I saw on ESPN.com, 90% of the experts that were polled are picking the Warriors to win tonight. Will you join them? Is this a Golden State victory?
Man, I think so. But at the same time, with how Jekyll and Hyde the Warriors have been this year, it would not shock me if this season ended in a disaster. Like we saw the Spurs kind of start the uptick in the panic meter early in the season after the Warriors got off to a 12-3 start. They're rolling through the season. They lose to the Spurs. They blow a late lead against the Spurs. And from there, all hell broke loose. I know it's a much smaller sample size, and a loss to the Clippers is nothing to hang your hat at. But lately, it has not looked nearly as smooth. Lately being the last week. So if Memphis did get the win, it would not stun me. I was a little bit stunned by the 7-point spread. I thought it would be more like 4.5, but I do think the Warriors win it. Let's go 122-117.
That's an extremely logical response. I wanted to be more mad at you, Charlie, but I can't be because that was very, very sound analysis. Damichael Cole,
Memphis played him tough for the most part. I mean, Memphis played him tough in that last game to where it's hard to think the Warriors are just going to run them off the floor. But look, Memphis has lost some games since the last time they played the Warriors. They may have fired their coach since the last time they played
I think
the Warriors.
That did happen. Thankfully, they didn't fire their coach who won a championship 2 years ago and their GM. Zach Kleiman is very much doing the boys meme where the guy's looking around smiling. He dodged a bullet there. Same question.
When in doubt, Joe, Damichael, when in doubt, you always bet on the team that has an active head coach, right?
And multiple Hall of Famers on their roster. I think that's a fair point to make. Damichael Cole, same question to you. Prediction.
Yeah, I'm with you, Charlie, on the fact that I think it's going to be a very competitive game. That we get into the last 4 or 5 minutes, it's going to be close. But I'm going to lean in the direction of Golden State, because of the fact that the Grizzlies are 0-8 in the state of California this year. I mean, I can't just look past that, even though I think they're playing better basketball, and the fact that they're playing a little btive better, and they're playing a Golden State team that, as Charlie said, isn't playing its best basketball right now. We talked about the 3 home losses, consecutive home losses where they had double-digit leads earlier. But with all that being said, we have not seen the Grizzlies win in California this year. We just haven't seen it. So I just can't say that it will happen, in this game. But, a lot of too many ifs on the Grizzlies side for me. If Jaren stays out of foul trouble, if Edie plays this many minutes, if Ja knocks down some shots, if Steph Curry isn't, it's too many ifs. All of those things are very plausible to happen, but I'm going to lean Golden State in the close one.
Yeah, it goes back to what I said at the beginning, Joe. Real quick, the Warriors will win if they play good. It's that simple. Like if they play a solid basketball game, I think they're the better team and they win, but you never know.
My head says Golden State 117, Memphis 113. That is what my head says. My heart, however, says that the Grizzlies are going to be 1-8 going home from California after this one.
And the Warriors will be 0-4 in the play, and the
Warriors will be 0-4, and that is one of the fun things about this game. For those of you that are masochists and are looking at the failures of the Warriors and the Grizzlies is fun. Somebody's streak is going to end. Either the Grizzlies are going to win in California for the first time, or the Warriors are going to win their first play-in game. So somebody is going to be ending a streak one way or another. Again, I think sound analysis would say the Warriors should be the favorite, but the Grizzlies have a puncher's chance given anytime you have Ja Morant on your team. He did drop 36 the last time these two teams played. If it's a one possession game and the ball's in Ja Morant's hands to close out, I think calling 12 is going to be a very interesting thing to watch play out.
Keldon Johnson just cooked you in a must-win game a week ago. Anything's possible.
Geez. Oh, boy. Well, anyway. Thank you guys so much for being with us on this special Locked On NBA crossover edition. Obviously, you can subscribe on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube, wherever you get podcasts. Make sure you're making Charlie part of your Locked On Warriors experience each and every day. Make sure you're making Damichael and I over at Locked On Grizzlies part of your Memphis Grizzlies content consumption each and every day as well. And friendly reminder that these two teams are fighting for a play-in berth. They're trying to get, or a playoff berth. They're trying to get into the actual postseason as the season winds down. Can the Warriors or Grizzlies secure a playoff spot? Stay in the know with both the Locked On Grizzlies and Locked On Warriors newsletters and get a chance to win one of these amazing prizes by subscribing. You can get a $2,500 Best Buy gift card to upgrade your sports cave setup, a $300 Game Time gift card, and a $200 Fanatics gift card. Sign up between now and April 30th, 2025 to be entered. The Warriors and Grizzlies newsletters deliver real-time updates, expert analysis, and playoff insights tailored to you. Subscribe now for free to either the Locked On Warriors or Locked On Grizzlies podcast. You know what? Subscribe to both of them. They're both great. Stay ahead as the season unfolds. Subscribe today. Click on the link in the description to enter. Charlie, thank you so much for being with us on this episode. This has been fun.
Absolutely. And that wasn't a shot at you. That was a little shot at the Warriors saying Keldon Johnson cooked them a week ago. I don't remember Keldon cooking. Did he cook you guys too?
Charlie, it's been a long season, dude.
No,
I blanked out. How we got cooked. There's so many dudes that did cooking. It was like Top Chef Memphis, man.
Yeah,
it was pretty rough.
It's been a tough couple of weeks for
people
you guys.
going around. Yeah, you know, it's. I can't wait to record the follow-up episode to this so I can vent and be sad. You know, maybe we'll be happy. Who knows? Basketball, you got to put the ball out on the court and see how it bounces. So
that's why you play the game.
Thank you to Charlie. Thank you to Damichael, as always, my wonderful partner there on Locked On Grizzlies. And thank you, dear listener, dear viewer, for checking out this special Locked On NBA crossover of Locked On Warriors and Locked On Grizzlies. Until next time, enjoy the play-in game, national television, Grizzlies-Warriors. It's going to be a big one. We'll catch you next time on Locked On Warriors and Locked On Grizzlies. See you.